Jason. The panels or the roundtables is something that we introduced this year, and I think it's a great way to have a nice conversation and ask some good questions. We have a slide for this, the Kit Arom lecture. Yes, very good. So this is an ISMICS tradition and an important feature of the annual meeting. The Kit Arom lecture. Kit Arom, just a few words about him, was a very important part of the International Society of Minimally Invasive Cardiothoracic Surgery. He was one of the founding members, and he was our third president from Bangkok, Thailand. And Kit was a visionary. He worked initially in Minneapolis and Minnesota before relocating back to Thailand. I think we heard his name in one of the presentations from Thailand at this meeting. And he was a wonderful influence and a visionary in minimally invasive cardiothoracic surgery. And unfortunately, we lost Kit in 2010 at an early stage in his career, too soon. And the society decided to have a memorial lecture for Kit every year. And it is my distinct honor this year to present our Kit Arom guest lecturer, my good friend, Dr. Sudhir Srivastava, who probably needs no introduction in this forum, but I'll just say a few words and why we asked him to come and talk to us today. Sudhir is a visionary in his own right, and he has spanned the difference or the gap between being a clinically active surgeon using robotic technologies into an actual maker of robots. And this is, as we all know, is not easy. So Sudhir was in practice in Odessa, Texas, and has been in practice at University of Chicago, which is where I work at this time, as well as in Atlanta, Georgia, and then relocated back to India in 2011 with a vision to create a robotic system that would be available for all parts of the world and to get some more people around the world in less affluent areas to be able to benefit from robotic technology. And as hard as that may sound, here's a surgeon with no training in engineering other than a vision who was able to marshal all the efforts, spend some time raising some money, and eventually was able to create a company that produced a robot that is now in clinical use, and you'll hear the full details of that story from him. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our Kit Arom speaker, Dr. Sudhir Prem Srivastava.
Good afternoon. Sam, thanks very much for the kind words. It's truly a privilege and an honor to share with you my thoughts through this Kit Arom lecture. In my disclosure, I still am a robotic cardiac surgeon, by the way. Now, one thing I'll say, how did I get this job? Don't drink with Sam and Bob Kiai in the middle of the night and tell your story. We were in London for this ICC meeting, and after dinner we sat down and started to chit-chat. And next thing we got into my story, and next thing I got volunteered to do, and I'm delighted. Thank you very much for giving this honor to be able to speak to you on Kit Arom lecture. I knew Kit, in fact, like many others, back in '97, I met him in Minneapolis. A whole bunch of pioneers were there during that time. The first meeting on the minimally invasive coronary surgery, and live cases were done. Went to Bangkok in 2004 for ISMICS workshop organized by Kit. And then in May of 2006, actually, I spent a week operating and launching their program at Bangkok Heart Institute with him and his young associate, Sujit. So I'm not going to be a typical speaker. I'm going to take you into little different dimensions before we get into the mundane part of my journey and technology. So, grew up in India, used to sleep on the roof, looking at the vast sky, the stars, the galaxies, and always wondered, in this vastness, I continue to search myself. Along the journey, got interested in the whole cosmic side of things, the particle physics, the creation of universe, and met this remarkable man. Many of you may know Dr. Professor Michio Kaku. He's one of the world-renowned theoretical physicists and co-founder of string field theory that many claim that it finishes the unfinished theory of everything that Einstein left unfinished. Remarkable man, so I'm going to play a little video clip of him.
Strings can vibrate at different frequencies. Each vibration corresponds to a subatomic particle. That's why we have protons, neutrons, electrons. They're nothing but different vibrations of the same string. So what happens when these strings get together? They can form molecules. In other words, physics is nothing but the harmonies. The harmonies you can make on a vibrating string is called physics. What is chemistry? Chemistry are the melodies you can create when these strings bump into each other. And then what is the mind of God? The mind of God is cosmic music resonating through hyperspace.
So when we look at this thing, immediately a question comes. The whole thing, that whether be through science or whatever other means of our experiments, everything is observational through 5 senses. And all the 5 senses, literally, you know how they travel as electrical potential current to the brain. Did we ever ask, what is that tells us what it is? And suddenly a question of an awareness pops up. So we really question the unseen witness, the field of awareness that interprets those signals and turns the raw data into live experience. And this is really how it actually occurs. We are lost in the external, we don't deep dive, and we keep going. We ask ourselves then, is it outside in or inside out? I'll leave it to you decide for yourself. So when we look at the awareness in its purest form, it may be the only gateway to higher dimensions, non-physical realities, and perhaps even to divine ultimately. Our life is a luminous point hovering in 4-dimensional space-time continuum. And through observing the order in this chaos, we can find through awareness a wonderful mathematical symmetry. There are 2 most difficult things that the human wakeful mind has trouble: the concept of infinity and eternity. Einstein wrote, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. And I think this raises a lot of questions, and I'm not going to get into the controversy of free will and destiny and all of that thing, but sometimes the process is so different than what our 5-sense dependent mind tells us. So my journey, my place, why, going where? So let me take you through my mundane manifestation in this quantum realm. So, born in Jodhpur in India, in a state which is full of palaces. Dad was an English professor and an Urdu poet. Mom, a ritualist. And 9 brothers and sisters. I have no idea how he raised us all with a meager salary. Very humble beginning. I used to have 2 pairs of clothes in medical college, one on my body, another drying up on a string. Graduated in 1970, and I used to draw a lot in my early days. And so in India, when you get to ninth grade, entering middle school, the form has to be filled out by parents. So during that time, the space age was very active. I used to draw a lot, spacecrafts, etc. Was very interested on the engineering side of things. And so I filled out the form, put math, physics, and chemistry. That will take me to engineering pathway. That evening, and this is where the first dot starts. A friend of my dad comes in, looks at the form. Professor, too many unemployed engineers today. Just make your son a doctor. And just like that, with a stroke of pen, mathematics got crossed out, and biology was put. That led me to where I am today. Early days in medical college, was very interested right now, and this is where it's almost like you're born with certain tendencies. And so during my third year of medical college, as we got into the clinical side of things, used to study really very high-level postgraduate books on cardiac sciences. And during that time in 1967, Christian Barnard had done the first heart transplant. It was very inspiring to see that how, despite all the challenges, in fact, I read this book, and if you guys have a chance, read this book, One Life, written by him, how many difficulties they faced, in fact, right in the beginning, developing a heart-lung machine, and how many patients actually died in the early stages, but they did not give up. And this finally culminated into this success. So I used to painted his portrait, which is still hanging in the principal's room in my medical college. And I was quite impressed by when he said that success in medicine is not measured by how many lives you save, but how many lives we actually touch. Came to United States, tell you a little interesting story. 50 cents in my pocket. No money. Dad had put up his hands, said, son, you have to figure out how you'll get there. So my only acceptance was there's hospital willing to pay my airfare. So Deaconess Hospital in St. Louis offered that. And those days, there were severe currency controls. And I had $8 in my pocket. Here I am going to a new country. And these are the days that there was no cell phone. There was no way to easily communicate with anyone. There was a delay because of mechanical issues in the plane, 4 hours. The flight landed later in London. The flight to St. Louis was gone. They gave us coupons to grab some food. And next day was now the flight. I had $8. I had a Pakistani friend next to me. He had none. So I bought the food for both of us for $7.50. Now here I have 50 cents, and I have no idea. I was supposed to arrive on Saturday, and somebody from the hospital was to pick me up, and no way to communicate. I had no idea how I'm going to get to the hospital from the airport with 50 cents in my pocket. And this is where the second dot comes in. You know, when I talk about connecting the dots, it's almost like when we look back, there has been a connection in the bigger picture. So I was sitting next to an American gentleman. Somehow the conversation got on to my poor thing about having only 50 cents. And the guy was very nice, actually. He said, don't worry, I have my car parked at the airport. I will drop you at the hospital and see how things literally kind of occur. And I told this story. So a lot of times we raise these questions. So what I would say, question not as to how. Every riddle has an answer in this cosmic symphony. Mostly we don't realize when it happens. But if you truly analyze, this is how it was to be. So I started residency in Vancouver, moved from St. Louis, from a private setup, wanted to get to the university program. I always wanted to be a cardiac surgeon right from the beginning. The only way I could get into the Vancouver program was choose a different specialty. And I used to scrub with a urologist who liked me, let me do things. And so I chose urology during first year of residency in Vancouver because they did not have a pyramidal system. So all the candidates will always have a pathway to finish the training. And now comes, this is now 75, April. I joined there in 74, and I was sitting in the lounge talking to this chief of urology, telling him that, Dr. Anchorman, I'm looking forward to starting urology with you. He said, Sudhir, I've been meaning to call you. I have given that position to an American starting July, and I was upset. I was on a work visa. If I don't have a job, fly back to India. Very frustrated, went to the chief. He said, sorry, it's not in my hand. I was sitting with my friend in the cafeteria who was doing his cardiac rotation, and I was telling him my sad story, what had happened just now. There's no way. He said, Sudhir, why don't you try talk to the cardiac chief? You might get a spot. I said, no, it's too late. You know, all these positions are done back in January, February timeframe for starting July. He said, won't hurt. Anyway, called him up. He met me, Peter Allen, and he said, let me check you out. 2 days later, he called me. I had the job. How things occur, no idea. Now, used to be really, I used my time. The good thing in Vancouver program that they allowed you to do a lot of cases. So if you could do things technically, they will leave you alone. And I think this was a wonderful experience to literally develop this skill under some of the literally master. These were, of course, early days of cardiac surgery. And I'll share a little story, and please don't take it any other way. I'm not trying to influence anybody's thought process, but I had gone to see a divine incarnation in India known as Sai Baba, and I had just come from the trip. And so I was on the call for a weekend. 18-year-old Vietnamese young man with Marfan syndrome ruptured the aorta. Now we are operating. These were early days of bubbler, no membrane oxygenator those days. 5 hours, the blood will hemolyze. So we operated. I was assisting our chief, and everywhere needle was put in, bleeding will occur. And blood products were used, and by this time we are 5 hours into surgery, can't control it, and we could see in the tube blood getting hemolyzed. And at one time, blood pressure of 50, anesthesia irritated. Guys, you have tried, just call quits. You can't do anything. I never used to pray in my life. I prayed to Sai Baba. I said, I don't know who you are, what you are. Why can't we save this kid? And I can tell you this thing. Somebody shocked my body with a current. Hand got picked up the suction, sucked out the blood, and bleeding had stopped. Peter Allen says, see, Sudhir, we did it. I couldn't tell him with the fear of getting kicked out of the program. Anyway, things happen. Things happen. Sometimes we have no idea why. Aurobindo, another giant spiritual being in India, wrote one time, miracles are concessions the divinity allows the mankind. Now, practice in San Antonio, age 33, built a very quick, successful practice. Unfortunately, created a lot of jealousy, did the stupidest thing, bought a convertible Rolls Royce, and people thought, where did this guy come from? Anyway, got involved with all kinds of things there those days. And a television station, CBS affiliate, did a number based on some jealousies and other things there. And absolutely defamatory thing. Killed my practice overnight. And here from success, now literally no money. Filed a lawsuit against them. Took 5 years. Everybody said, don't take on this giant. They will destroy you. Television, the media can do whatever. I said, no, I'm not going to. I know they have lied, and I'm going to prove it. I want to practice with my head high. 5 years later, won the largest award ever of $31+ million against this television station. And if I was to give a message, and I think Gandhiji has said, and many others, no injustice should be tolerated. And I think what I learned from this experience, in fact, my wife, Elizabeth, used to always question, how long will this last? I said, look, this too shall pass. The only thing about all these events, they are temporary, and what God-given abilities one has, nobody can take those away. So what made me successful, we'll do it again. And so I think it really tests our strength of character and confidence. You know, adversities really make you stronger and better in the end. So after this hiatus, I got invited to West Texas to start cardiac surgery practice. And just to refresh my skill, I went to Dr. Cooley's program. I spent almost 3.5 months as a visiting fellow. I must say, really got a little bit close to him, a great man, a great surgeon, and I still consider him father of cardiac surgery. A tremendous innovator and a thinker, but very polite and very down-to-earth person to work with. And I did a painting. I used to paint and gave him a little gift as expression of my gratitude. What I learned from him and his wonderful team of very talented surgeons, that one thing Dr. Cooley contributed was, first of all, taught everyone without reservation. It was not that he wanted to keep it to himself. Secondly, simplified every single thing. You know, during our training, we learn all kinds of things based on what our teachers are telling us at the time. But he figured out, don't have to do all of these things. What it did, it made the procedures less complicated and faster without compromising the outcomes. So, learn from the greatest, apply it, but continue to advance the techniques further. And I say this thing, you know, many times we get contented, achieve the best, and I say best is enemy of better. There's always going to be a better way of doing things. And one thing I will share, I was in a conference and Dr. Cooley was there. By this time, we had started this robotic program. And Dr. Cooley, as I think many of you may know, he bought the robot and he tried it. So he comes up to me from behind. He said, oh, I recognize you. Now, why in the hell would you transfer the pain of the patient to the surgeon? It was kind of interesting comment coming from someone who literally created changes. 96, I think 97 time frame, I attended this meeting from West Texas. All the figures that you see, many of them are here in this room. And really was the changing way of doing surgery because, you know, we all grew up doing hysterectomy, and it was patient's problem to recover. And I think it was a wonderful meeting that I learned. There were almost 5 cases done live by every surgeon, and the very next day, angiograms were done to see the results. And I think that really initiated, I know Dr. Federico Bonetti was the first one to have initiated, and Calafiore got involved. But I think this is really where my revolution started, to start to look from a different angle. You know, we had achieved wonderful results in terms of mortality, but the morbidity of the patients was really still an open thing. And it's easy for the surgeons, but not for the patients. And one of the things that I learned also from a lot of the leaders, that pioneers show new pathways, but the followers must take it further. And this is a message to many of you who are sitting here. It's wonderful to see what has been done, but there's always an evolution. Always a change must occur, because we must contribute to the science. I had changed things completely around in West Texas. Patients used to go to Houston, Dallas. I was in Midland, Odessa, population of 100,000 each. There were 4 other hospitals. I decided to build a hospital as a founding chairman. And literally, patients started to come from other places. And this is the Chamber of Commerce realized that it really changed. You know, it was an oil belt. Always these awards were given to oil men. First time they decided to give it to a surgeon. And I did tell them my story of 50 cents, and it was quite remarkable as to how this thing. So, different dots now. Um, we were really advancing the field, and I went up to the hospital. How about we build a minimally invasive institute? Politics, not interested. So, gathered a group of surgeons. We must do something to advance the cause of minimally invasive surgery. And the robot actually was already there in 2000. The FDA had approved, and I used to get approached by Intuitive Surgical, except that time there were no indications, in fact, and we were already doing various thoracotomy approaches. And so I did not see really use except to take the IMA down at the time. So we just kept going. But when we were building the hospital, I approached Intuitive, and I think Mike Argenziano of Columbia, they were going to start the arrested heart trial. I said, I will get the robot, but I want to be part of the trial. Anyway, so we purchased the robot. I raised $16 million over dinner from doctors, borrowed the rest, and built a beautiful small hospital surrounded by all these giants. I was afraid, will we succeed? But we did. And this became known as the Robotic Cardiac Center globally those days. With the first generation system, I did 750 robotic cardiac cases. The best part was wonderful results, actually. And I will tell, after I was done with the trial for both atrial fibrillation as well as arrested heart, I couldn't do anything other than take the IMA down. And then gradually we started doing bilateral IMAs. So then I got the permission from FDA under IDE to do 20 beating heart TCAPs. Share the story of the first patient. First patient came with a hybrid candidate, tight proximal LAD, and a focal right coronary lesion. Talked to the cardiologist, was a perfect candidate to start out TCAP. So I talked to him. So I told him, you're going to be the first one in US. He said, Doc, I'm going to be a guinea pig. I said, yes. He said, let me think about it. 2 days later, he called me, he was ready. We operated on him. It took me 5 hours to do the first case. Had no idea. And that time, I had worked with some of the engineers from Intuitive, this Octopus T now, that is part of Medtronic, so use that one. And believe it or not, this patient went home 23 hours later after surgery as the first case. A week later, he went to Phoenix, Arizona from Odessa, 800 miles away. And I tell you, that was so inspiring. And then we just kept pushing the envelope, more and more graphs, and on and on. 20% patients went home next day after bypass surgery. 50% 2 days or less. Average length of stay 3.2 days. So this was huge, actually. And then when you not only look at the patient benefits, the system benefits. And like Tom Fogarty, I was listening to him in one of the lectures. He made a comment that if you've done the same thing for 30 years, you probably are wrong. And if you look today at the cardiac scene, it's still majority, we are cutting the sternum, even though options are there. So we must change. And Odessa was a little kingdom for me. Val Jivanandam and some of the colleagues had come to Texas to observe. At the end, Val asked me, Sudhir, is this your last destination? Although it was wonderful in every way, but I wanted to really take it beyond myself. And so joined the faculty and launched the program as a director of robotic cardiac surgery. And it was very successful, except everybody who recruited me either got fired or left, and was tough for my temperament. And Sam is taking all advantages of their delay. Anyway, that time there was a need in Atlanta at St. Joe's Hospital, which is now part of Emory. Doug Murphy was doing all the intracardiac cases. Robotic revascularization was still kind of in the back burner. So got invited, they rolled red carpet. We started the program there. And literally, they thought I will do 50 cases first year. New place, no referrals. I did 100 TCAPs in 5 months. And we had wonderful results, actually, patients literally coming from all over. And one of the things I will say that I was always passionate about country back home. First case I did was there back in 2002. And when I saw how uneven the global distribution was of robotic technology, that the money literally stopped many patients to get the best possible care and the technology. So I'm just going to, I think I don't need to go through these slides. Did a lot of world's first types of cases those days, a lot of figuring out. The only thing that I can say that we approached it very systematically. There were a lot of cases that were never done by others at the time. So I will just gather up the team, sit down with them, brainstorm, look at every aspect, and be prepared if this didn't work, then what? And then after the case, regroup, look at every single thing and how could we do it better next time. So this approach, I tell you one thing, very organized approach, absolute commitment. Sundays, I used to bring the team to practice. We had no guidance that time. The only guy who came was a salesman one day, and that was it, okay? The early days of this thing. And after practice, I'll take them to Red Lobster as an incentive. But we really committed ourselves. And this is where, during my time, I trained a lot of people. Unfortunately, a lot of programs fell off after the initial adoption because commitment and practice and proper steps were not done. And one thing I will say, what made us successful was this FDA mandated protocol for the trial that we had to do, apart from the training, 15 IMAs to get comfortable by harvesting, which will be the lifeline for the patient, get comfortable with the machine. Same thing for the team, to get comfortable in changing instruments, etc., without causing damage. And then simultaneously, we were to do 35 pig heart anastomosis and make videos, retrain our fingers and wrists without tactile feedback. So we went through very systematic approach, and I can tell you, but unfortunately today, as we see in many programs, it does not occur. And this is one of the challenges, I think, that kind of puts us behind. So did all of these different things, and from single vessel to double vessel, LED and from the right-sided ports. In fact, I had a patient I was trying to figure out, put a robot on one side, then go on the other side. By this time, we were taking bilateral IMA from the same side, so I said, we'll take it down from right side, both the IMAs. I put deep pericardial sutures, rotated the heart a little bit, put the stabilizer, and here LED was right there. So I was able to suture Lima to LED from the right side. And then in Chicago, I did a quadruple graft with connector, and Sam, of course, is the master of the connector, and unfortunately, it went away. But we were able to do, there was a very interesting patient. The patient had Hodgkin's disease and radiation to the chest, and both hands were missing. Came as a referral from Loyola. Nobody wanted to touch the patient. We did a CTA, and as IMAs looked okay. We decided to proceed, and we used the anastomotic connector to do all the 4 grafts. Bold move to India. By this time, I had done 1,400 or so robotic cardiothoracic cases, 800 TCAPs, and launched the program, purchased the robot myself, Da Vinci SHD that time, for almost $1.3 million or so. But because of the cost of the disposables, patients just could not afford. When you convert into the dollars, it means nothing, but an average patient in India, 400,000 rupees is like $400,000 out of pocket. And it was very obvious, and that time, these early days, in 2011, 7 or 8 robotic systems, mostly were just kind of sitting around, not doing much. And so what turned my life around, and this is where Sam gave me the topic from being a cardiac surgeon to robot maker. I'm not a robot maker, by the way, but yeah, involved in this thing. So I had a patient, 22-year-old female, atrial septal defect, secondum, and brother brought saying that if she has a scar in front of the chest, she probably won't get married. And except they didn't have money, I said, we'll do it free. Hospital wanted to charge 400,000 rupees. He tried to raise money, called me a month later, was still struggling, and I never heard from him. And I tell you, that was the turning point in my life that we must do something, that we cannot offer these wonderful techniques to the patients, and why should it be only economy-centric, only for the rich countries or rich people? So literally made a commitment at that time that we must do something. I used to talk to, I knew Lonnie Smith and the whole hierarchy with Intuitive, that why don't you guys come up with an affordable system so that most patients can benefit from it. So anyway, the focus was different. So used up almost $4.5 million of my life saving as a cardiac surgeon from US. Went to Germany, failed, didn't work. Now no money. Naresh Trehan bought the robot, freed me up. I put a team of engineers together from my home, 10 engineers who had no idea about robotics, forget about surgical robotics, except I was just determined. Now, ran out of money, I wasn't practicing. Family went back to US, chased this dream for 7 years, sitting there, trying to figure out how and what to do. But again, somehow, in the big picture, if the intentions are sincere and beyond you, the help comes. We finally got the funding and moved very rapidly, actually, from then. And so what I will say, was it easy? No. Ran out of money, borrowed money from a bunch of my friends, including, well, Jivanandam, $700,000, promising them that if I fail, I'll come back, practice, and pay you guys back. They trusted me. Ran out of that. I've got a couple guys sitting here who made me sell my car and furniture to pay their payroll. There were times I had no idea how I'm going to pay. All of these things cost money. You know, these surgical robot development is not easy or cheap. And all kinds of risks are there, but I just stayed with it. I said, I used to get a call from Vishwa, my son, who is now with us as a doctor and involved with the company. Dad, you've tried, just come back. Every time I will tell him, give me 45 days more. So one day, after about 5 years, he says, Dad, you know how many 45 days have gone by? I said, look, if I give it up now, forget about money or time, the vision to create something that most patients can afford and benefit, and we can change the direction of surgery, that will be gone. And as the destiny or luck or whatever one wants to call it, my last attempt on a Saturday, I sat down, gave a presentation for an hour and a half. The goal was to raise $5 million. Sunday was my flight booked to come back and just call quits on everything. And at the end of the presentation, this guy was a multi-billionaire. He told my assistant, and Dr. Srivastava signed the term sheet before he leaves. And I just looked at him, it can't be real. There is another dot somehow just pops up in your life. And here, I flew back to Dallas, came back, put a team together, and just pushed and pushed further, actually, in terms of the development. So I think what I found, the challenges that I was really facing, I was so frustrated. Everybody say, why would you come back to India? Everybody wants to go to US. And one thing I will say, yes, it was very frustrating, very challenging, but it turned into a blessing that I could do what we have been able to do subsequently. Otherwise, it won't occur. Very simple. And as Sai Baba has said, in man's adversity, God's opportunity begins. And sometimes we kind of fight it, but if we let it, things will happen. So the vision was to create a new technologically advanced system that surpasses the existing robotic systems, hopefully, and will be very cost-effective to benefit most patients around the world. So with this, now look at this one. We had nothing. I borrowed a UR arm, showed a demo with 3 little gadgetries, and we got a commitment for $5 million. It's really crazy when I start to think and look back how things actually happen. And the whole idea was right from the beginning for me was to create a system, not only it will be better with more advanced, more user-friendly features, more specialties, including cardiac, but must be cost-effective, and really focus on creation of enabling technologies, because as surgeons we know if it is hard, we won't do it. And this is probably what happened in the early days of revascularization. Most people dropped off because it was not easy. And we went through all kinds of crazy ideas in the early days. I wanted a robot mounted on the table, lightweight, looked nice, small, sexy. Very quickly realized it's not going to work when you started to look at all the practical aspects of this thing. The only thing we had was a team of people, absolutely committed, and no lack of imagination. Young guys, some of them are here. I'm sure you won't recognize if you see them now as they looked back then. Very rapidly, we developed this system, and I say, when you are poor, you have to work fast. And this is exactly we did. In 1 year, we created Mantra 2 system. In 23, and Sam and many others were there. We had the first conference, and I was getting all these different ideas from people. And I already had some very disruptive ideas in my head at that time. So in January of 23, made a commitment. We're going to create a completely different and disruptive generation. And what you see, and some of you may have seen outside the Mantra 3, it literally occurred in around 6 months' time. In June, we launched this thing at SRS meeting last year. I'm not going to get into some of these technology sites. I think purpose is not that. Only thing I will share that I think we moved very rapidly. Over 4,100 plus cases now, more than 200 cardiac cases of all different kinds actually. And I gave a talk the other day, and I won't repeat that we developed telesurgery. We've done literally teleproctoring, telesurgery, and all kinds of things that really will help launch the programs. And the whole idea is to decentralize and democratize access. And that was the goal, one, to create an affordable system. And wonderful results so far. And I'm sure someday we will have challenges, but it has been a wonderful track record so far in all of these cases. And mind you, it is device related. This is how any robotic system gets tracked. So the 9th dot, we got onto teleproctoring, telesurgery, and as has been pointed out, the whole robot originally was developed actually to be able to operate long distance. And we really stayed with this. So this teleproctoring, I think, will be the future. It is robot agnostic. It doesn't matter what system one has. You can guide people sitting wherever without having to travel. This is one of the biggest challenges that we have. There are only so many experts who have experience and who are willing to also travel and guide people. I think we must use technology to make this thing different. We are developing an automated connector. Hopefully, I'll be firing when I go back in June. And we are on to automation. And the little video that played, there was nobody controlling the system. Our team of software engineers and others, they programmed this thing by initially very simple pick and place, and then they pushed the button and the system operated on its own. So I think this is where the future will go gradually. And I know the minute we introduce the word automation, the regulatory bodies go crazy. But I think it will be feasible. It's only a matter of time with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and very different mechanisms in terms of the imaging. The whole thing will change. And I can predict 10 years from now, things will be so different, and we'll play our part to advance this thing. Various other things we are working on, trying to really, again, decentralize and democratize. A lot of late diagnoses occur in many countries because of the rural population or not having facilities or access. So the idea is to literally bring the care. We also have now modified a bus where our system is, and the next exercise is to really put an operating room on wheels, whereby we can hold camps, do the screening, and bring the care to them. And I think this is what will address every patient's issues. I think this is where the focus needs to be. That's where we will change the direction. All different types of instruments we have developed, including stabilizer, retractors, etc. Now, so in the end, getting close to finishing, how did the dots connect? A little boy from Jodhpur, the one on the right side. I saw Sam's picture as a child. I thought I'll put one too. Graduated, got married in 1975, young family, and blessed actually to have come across. And one thing I will say, with all of these challenges, I have no idea how actually things happen. And my only prayer used to be, if this thing needs to happen through me and not because of me, help will come. And it has happened. I have no idea how it does, but it does. Got into engineering. Half of my brain now thinks engineering. And sometimes in the middle of the night, get up with solutions. Celebrated 50 years of being together with my wife, and very happy with gifted children and wonderful children. And I tell you, this anniversary got turned into a major show in India. Everyone else enjoyed, but it was fun. So now, through this journey, from starting literally from nothing, SSI now, we are going to be ringing the bell on June the 3rd on NASDAQ. And it's sometimes really difficult to comprehend from where to where and what all occurs. And the only thing that I have learned in this thing is, so how will it end? From engineer to surgeon to innovator to entrepreneur. Was it easy? Absolutely not. Was it worth it? Yes. Would I do it again? Yes, many times over, but better, because I've learned so much through these challenges. So what I have understood, coming back to the whole cosmic side of things, cosmic symphony to manifestation. We don't know how it occurs, but it does. Each one is an instrument in the field of awareness. Let us be the best instrument to transmit the music of God, to bring about a change for betterment of generations to come, and finally, to realize the true purpose of our earthly journey. So does it end? No. The journey continues. And I share this picture. I had launched a program in Beijing, I think back in 2007, and I saw this young lady balancing all these candelabras. And I'm sure she dropped them many times. And then I saw her twist her body in every possible way. It reminded me not only the journey of robotic surgery itself, but also of innovation, absolute commitment, lot of patience and persistence. So thanks to our team in India, a wonderful group of dedicated young engineers, no constraints of time, work day and night, and they have created, I've been a small part in this journey with them. So I plea to all, I think we as surgeons are the end users of technologies. I think we must all get involved in contributing to the further evolution and innovation, and through our efforts, patient will be the ultimate beneficiary. So we are not always at the mercy of industry. We have shown it can be done, and I think with collective effort and through efforts of society like this, and the enthusiasm of advancing the field of minimally invasive, because it is so wonderful for the patient, I think if we just unite together, a lot more can be done much, much faster than I had to do. So let us love all, serve all, quality and care through innovation and compassion.
What a vision. What a visionary. Thank you very much, Sudhir. That was inspiring. What a journey. I think we have literally time for one question. If anybody has a burning question for Dr. Srivastava, the surgeon, and the robot maker, before we move on to lunch and the next session. No questions. I think they're absorbing all the cosmic rays and the cosmic forces. Thank you very much once again. Lovely.
Sam,
We have a question. We have a question. Sorry. Manny.
there's no question. Just want to comment. My dear friend Sudhir, I don't know how to describe this, and I knew you right from the beginning. It is a stupendous achievement anybody can achieve. It is beyond anybody's imagination. Thank you very much for what you've done and for you to come and grace us with your permission, with your presence here, and talking to us about your journey.
Thank you.
Lucian, you have a question?
Thank you very much. A very inspiring talk. Can you tell us how do you allow the dots to connect? Did you actively practice, your mindfulness, yoga, and so how that does play in? And I'm a true believer in improving our resilience and innovation through these practices. So can you tell us a little bit about that? You left out.
And I know Sam said one question, and I was just going to say, Sam knows if I get started on the subject, we'll be here through lunch and beyond. All right, I will give you a very quick thing. Firstly, connecting the dots is always a retrospective analysis. It is like mostly we think we're doing it. We have no idea. So yes, I did practice yoga, meditation, met all kinds of people, had numerous experiences that people will call miraculous. But one thing learned that, I'll give you an example. He said, this idea came to me. This thought occurred to me. Do we ever ask, where did it come from? We don't. It comes to us and it becomes ours suddenly. Huh? Is this mass of matter is creating all of this thing? Answer is no, based on what I know. So I think it is like if we tune ourselves into whatever, the music of this cosmic symphony will come to you. So if you let go, if you take your eye out of the I-ness, suddenly you're part of that and it comes to you. So things happen. Only thing is we don't realize when you're doing because the free will and you are the maker of your destiny. All these things are taught to us, which is good. But then I think even having understood, no efforts must be spared at a human level. And this is what, having understood all these things, and that's the only thing I say, keep doing. Forget about the philosophy side of it. But yes, this is how it is.
Thank you very much, Sudhir. So our next session is also a mainstay of ISMICS, pitfalls, technical pitfalls and challenges. This is a